Hello everybody, and how are you doing? Today I'm going to show you how you can create a nice README using a Markdown syntax. A README file is a file that tells anyone who visits your GitHub page, especially when you have a project, what that project is about. It could contain a short summary or description of your project, but if you want to take it a little bit step further, you could actually have a project that describes what you're doing and then explain your code and then have your code syntax like we can see in this example. Another cool thing about creating a README is that you can actually use Visual Studio Code and create a PDF version of your project. That way you can share your project with colleagues as long as write articles and descriptions for your colleagues. You can also use the Markdown syntax to create PDFs. Apart from PDF, you can create HTML files and you can also create ebooks. So let's see how we can get together and set this up. So I'll open up my Visual Studio Code project. I have a project here where I worked on modules in my last lesson in my object-oriented programming class, and I actually have two scripts right here. The first script is going to be a main script that is going to be the entry point of our program, and then the book is a module that just displays a simple description of a book, author, and the number of sales the author has as an example. So let's go ahead and see the Markdown file. Now, a Markdown file is a README file, rather, is a Markdown file. As you can see, it has the .md extension. And one cool thing is if you have the appropriate extensions installed, if I right click right here and go to Markdown Preview Enhanced, you can actually see a side-by-side comparison of how this looks like. Now, if you're wondering how these icons are actually here, let me just show you a very nice extension, and I'll open up the web page. It's called the emoji extensions by Matt Gruber. So these extensions actually help you add very nice icons to boost and enhance how cute your README file shows up. So if I go ahead and jump in my README file, you can see we have this little smiley. We also have a disk image, and we can add things like book images as well, but I didn't want to overdo it, so I actually left it the way it is. So let me just jump down to Visual Studio Code. And the cool thing is, if for instance you have the Markdown preview enabled, if I type things like hi, how are you, we can actually see that updating live. So let's go ahead and start to create this from scratch. So I'm going to delete this, and I'll select my entire README and then delete all the content in my README file. So like I said, there are some very important extensions. So I'll just show you a screenshot of the extensions I use on the page and just hang it in there for a few seconds so you can download those extensions as well. So basically I have the Markdown checkboxes. The most important one is the Markdown emoji if you want to have emojis in your Markdown file. And then we have the Markdown footnotes and the Markdown preview GitHub styling. So these are the extensions you need to install. And if you don't know how to use extensions, don't worry, I'll show you how to do that. It's super straight. Click Ctrl-Shift-X or click on this squares right here. Once that opens up, you could just drag this a little bit just to have some space. And all you need to do is to just type Markdown. And you can make sure you select and use the Markdowns from Matt Gruber. So for instance, if I drag this down here, we can actually see the Markdown emoji. You can also search for that, and you can also search the other emojis as well. So I have also the Learn Markdown extension. I have the GitHub Markdown preview, which allows us to actually see the extension live using Visual Studio Code. And the cool thing is, if you install this, it is going to actually have a few extensions built into it as well. So once you've done installing your extensions, all you have to do is just click on install and you're done. For instance, if I click this auto open Markdown preview and click install, this will install the extension, and next time I have Visual Studio Code open, that extension is going to be available. Another thing I'd like to point out is I created a folder within my Visual Studio Code project called screenshots, and within that folder I actually have the images I'm going to use. Like this image is for the results, and this image right here is for the Markdown preview, such that once I have my Markdown open, you can actually see those images live. So let's jump in and start creating this. So I'll just close this, and also I'll have the main Python file open. but I'll just jump on the readme.md. So to create a readme file, you just go to new file and you just say readme.md, and Python will know this is a markdown file, but I have that already existing, so I'm not going to create that. So create that readme file, and once that's open, I'll just press Ctrl B to hide this window, and we can start writing our information. So the first thing we want to do is to create a heading, and to create a heading we just use one hash, and then we create the heading for our project. So I'll just say 1.0, and our heading is going to be how to create modules in Python. So this is a heading. If I save this and I right click like so, and I go to a Markdown preview, we can actually see that heading now. Heading comes in different styles. If I want a lower level heading or H2 heading, I just switch this to 2 hash signs, 3 hash signs, 4 hash signs, and you can actually see it gets smaller. But since this is a heading, I'll leave this heading as it is, and I'll go ahead and close the Markdown preview because I like having a full screen display to work with. If you want to create the content for the Markdown, you just start typing. So I'll just say hello, and I'll say in this lesson we will learn how to use Markdown to create an engaging README, and that's it. And also a rule of writing Markdown is whenever you have a header, you could just drop in one space and just leave that empty, and I'll add a full stop here. So this is going to be my first heading, and then again I'll add information about what we're going to learn as a second heading. So I'll say heading 2. Now you don't have to use this numbering system, I just personally like to use it to know what we are. So I'll just say what we will learn in this lesson. Now to create a list, all you have to do is to use the dash, just a simple dash, and then you write down the list of what we're going to be doing in this lesson. So I will just write how to create a Markdown file right. We're also going to learn how to write Markdown syntax, and you can actually describe what you want to do in your lessons. You can actually describe it over here, or if it's your project. So how to format code in Markdown, and also how to embed images in Markdown. Images are super cool because they give it more functionality. Now I can do a Control K and then V to actually see that. So that's a super short way to actually do that. So this is a list right here, and we can actually see that list. If we drag this will actually scale up to our view. So if you're a fan of leaving this open, I think I'll just leave it open because it's kind of like interesting to see it. Now let's actually create the extension. So number 3, I'll just say extensions. We need R, and what I'm going to do right now is to create an ordered list, basically a list that has a few numbers. So if you actually use a numerical system, you'll be able to see that updating live. So the first one is to we'll use the GitHub Markdown preview by Mark Brenner, and if you want to let's say GitHub preview by Matt Brenner. Now if I wanted to make this GitHub bold, all I need to do is to use double asterisks like so. So double asterisks, and I've done the double asterisks, and we can see the word GitHub is bold. If I want to make this italics, I'll just use a single asterisk and then it's in italics. I think I'll leave it in italics because it looks super nice. So another one is the Markdown emoji by Matt Brainer. So Matt Brainer really likes that. So there is a link to the Markdown emoji. So I'll just create that link right now. So I'll create another heading, and I'll just if you want to create a link, so I'll create a header, and I'll say emoji link. So basically, if you want to find out all the emojis, I'll create that link here. So I'll just write a text and say you can find, and let's just zoom out a little bit. So and say you can find all the emojis here. All right, so right underneath, I'll create a link. So I'll say HTTPS, column / or I'll just go ahead and copy the web link to the emoji file. So I'll just jump here, the emoji cheat sheet, and I'll just copy that, and I'll get back to Visual Studio Code, and I'll just paste that link right here. Now, if you want to convert this to a link, all you have to do is to place this in angle brackets like so, and another angle bracket, and you have your link, and you're good to go. That's how you can create a link. And let me just add information about some Markdown editors. So you don't really need to use only Visual Studio Code. We have other Markdown editors. So let me just close this and zoom in, for anyone who's finding it the text too small. So other Markdown editors you can use. And what I'll do is to just create a list of other Markdown editors. So first, if you're on Mac systems, you can actually use the Markdown. So I'll just put this in bold, and this is Markdown. So that's the name of that editor. And if you're on Windows, an editor you can use is Ghostwriter. So you can use Markdown editor or Ghostwriter. So I'll just put that in bold, so you can see Ghostwriter, or let's say Markdown editor. So if you're on PC, you can use Ghostwriter or Markdown editor. So let's actually begin writing our code on how to load an image. So let's just say, so let's begin properly, and I'll just make this up, take this up, and let's just say our program. So for our program, what we're going to do is to first load an image, right? So to load an image, you'll use let's say to load. So first thing you'll do is to use the exclamation mark. So I'll just put that in bold in square brackets, and you have an exclamation mark. So use an exclamation in square brackets. So that's the first thing you do. After you have an exclamation mark with square brackets, and then you can pass the alternate text in the square bracket. So this is supposed to come first, not like that. The exclamation mark is outside like so. So that's how we do it. So you put it outside, and then you have your reference, or let's say the alternate text. An alternate text is going to replace the text in case it doesn't find it when it's being rendered. So if you don't have the text image, or for some reason the text image is not there, the alternate text is going to put a placeholder and tell you, this is the image of a cat or whatever information you have in that. So for an example, if I do the exclamation mark symbol and I open my square brackets, I could just say image of a cat like so within this and that. So so next thing we're going to do is to let's actually load in our reference image just underneath here, right? So I've actually shown you how we can do that. So let's load our reference image. So to load a reference image, I'll use the exclamation mark, a square bracket, and then the text in that, I'll just say reference image. This could actually be any text, and immediately after that you open your parentheses and then you pass in the path where that image is. So my images, like I said earlier, they are in my screen. I created a folder called screenshots and I have it as picture 1 and picture 2. So to have access to this root folder, you start with a / and then I'll scroll to my screenshots section, and I'm not sure whether it's picture 1 or picture 2, but I'll just click on picture 1. So let's save this and let's open our Markdown preview by pressing Ctrl K, then pressing V, and let's scroll down. So this is our image right here, and this is our image that contains the Markdown preview. So if I want to add that information underneath, all I need to do is to come over. I'll just close that so we can have more space to work with. And under here, I'll just create a text using italics, and I'll say picture 1 just to represent that image, and I'll say common, or I'll just say useful Markdown extensions. Right, so that's what that's going to be. So to fix this, I'm just going to add one space underneath that, and let's look in our program again. So let's add a single space in between, like so. And whenever you see these squiggly lines and you start to solve the problem, just do Control and dot, and then click on Fix All Supported, Markdown LinkedIn problems. Yellow squiggly lines are not really dangerous and it won't stop your program from running. You should be actually afraid of the red squiggly lines. So if we want to display code using Markdown, this is how we can actually display our code information. So next, I'll just say to show our code using Markdown, you can use a backticks for single code. So backticks, these are backticks. Just these are examples of backticks. So say for instance I want to display hello. I could just write a single backtick and I'll just say print hello world, and this is a string, so I'll just pass this like so. And so for a single line of code we'll use backticks, and I'll just do Control K and then V so that we can see that single. So we can actually see it's formatted this as code. So what happens when you want to do multiple lines of code? You can use let's just add a italicized text here to show multiple lines of code. Use 3 backticks, right? So we have for instance, whoops, let me just get rid of this. So we can use 1 2 3 and 1 2 3, and then we can pass in our multiple lines of code. So first I'll pass in my my book.py code like so. So I'll copy my code like so. So once I copy this, I'll go back to my README file, and in between my 3 backticks, I'll just paste in this code right here. Now, one excellent thing you can do with the README is to specify the programming language. So I could just immediately after my first 3 opening backticks, I'll just say Python. So now my program is going to know that this is a Python program, right? So this is a Python line right here. So let's actually see how that looks. So if I save that, press Ctrl K and then V, so you can actually see it nicely formatted my code, right? So and then I'll make sure I close this. Let's just close this using another asterisk. So I'll just say here I have my book class code, and then underneath that let's add in our main entry code. For our main entry code, Right, so what we're going to do is just to do the same thing. So I'll create my tree backsticks, specify the language, and let's leave one space here. I'll just say and add another space right here. So this is Python, and then I'll add my tree backticks, and in between what I'm going to do is to copy the main code like so. So I'll just copy this and then get back to my README file and just paste this in between. And to get rid of any errors, I'll do the control dot and say fix all supported Markdown linting issues. Again, don't be too worried and too concerned about you know, how these things are. And then if I want to show the output of my program, so I'll just add in information down here to show the output. Whoops, so what did I do here? I didn't paste this in between. Okay, all right, so this is good. I have my closing curly braces, and just be sure, I'll just preview that. Let's use our shortcut to preview. Right click on the screen just to see that. So this is our main entry code, and this is my book class code right here. So what we're also going to do is to show the output of this result, which I have as image 2. So I'll just write a text and say running the program, we get following output. And what I'm going to do right now is to load my image. So I'll use a exclamation mark, open up my square brackets, and pass in the alternate text. I'll just say image showing the output of the program, like so. And remember, Markdown likes to leave one space. I'll just push this up like so, and then we'll open and close in parentheses, and then we'll link that image file. So again, it's in my screenshots folder. So I'll do a single right click, go to screenshots, and this time around I'll select picture 2. Another way you can import an image into a Markdown file is, let me just show you how you can do that. So I'll just right click here and open preview, and just where we have it right here, I could just right click this spot and I could say the image helper. Once I open the image helper, I can just copy the workspace, or what I can do is to upload an image file. So if I click this, this is going to ask me, you know, for a location where I can find some specific images, and I can actually get those images and load those images right here in my project. So that's one way you can load and embed an image using Markdown. But since I have my images in my project, I'll just load them from the project as well. But note, if you have it locally on your system and you want it on a web server, you might not be able to see your images. So you might as well just embed those images in your program. So what we can actually do is to create a summary. So I'll just say summary, and here and say that's how you can create a nicely formatted README.md file for GitHub. And what I'll also do is to add a link to this project. So I say you can find the link to this project here. And what I'll do again is to just create a web link for my GitHub. So I'll just use 2 double asterisks and I'll just say GitHub link. And let me just jump to the GitHub project, and I'll jump here. And what I'll do is to click drop down on code and click this link like so. And then let's get back to Visual Studio Code like so. And then I'll just paste this link. And let's not forget to use the less than symbol and the greater than symbol just to make sure this is a link And let's quickly preview that, make sure that works. Alright, so if I click this, this should take me to the GitHub page. And also if we click on Markdown emoji, this should take us to the Markdown emoji page by Matt Gruber. So speaking about the emojis, let's go ahead and add the emojis. So for instance, if I'm on this, okay, why am I not seeing that? I'm on main.py, and I'll just get back to readme.py here. Alright, so let's see how to create modules in Python. If I wanted to add a smile, I'll just say smile and then close that with a single quote. So if we save that, that should actually show us the smile right there, right? So that's how we can add the emoji, because if we look at the emoji cheat sheet, you could look at any emoji right here, and this is the syntax for it. So you add a colon, the name, and then a closing colon. You can even add a bow tie like so. Sometimes Markdown might not actually display this directly, but just save it and refresh and you'll be good to go. And let's also add what we need in this lesson. Let's add a compact disc emoji. So I'll just do CD like so. Right, so that should actually change to a compact disc emoji. Let's just see this and let's preview. So we have the face image and we have the disc emoji. Let's see if there's any meaningful emoji we can add, because I don't want to actually overdo this. So our program, let's see if we can find a nice emoji to represent a program. So what we can actually see is, let's see, objects. And let's just quickly scroll down and look for something. I'll be mischievous here and just put a ghost right there. So I'll just jump over here. And our program, I'm just going to say ghost, but please don't use a ghost when you're writing your yeah, so just to make it interesting and nice. So that's how you can add the emojis, and make sure you have the Markdown emoji extension by Matt Gruber. Another final thing I'd like to show you, if I go ahead and save this, and okay, I think I've added this guy right here so that we can find the course links here. So what we can actually do again is to export this to a PDF file. So if we open our preview and you right click, you can open this entire thing as a web browser. So if I say HTML offline, so if I click that, so it actually created that, and this is the path for that file. If you have your project open, you can actually see the HTML path here. Okay, sorry, it actually saved it in a location on my hard drive. Code files, HTML, yeah, it's actually right there. So if I click on this, we can see the HTML file. I can open this with a live server. So let me say open with live server. And basically this will allow us to see that same information. So if you have live server, this should actually start up in your web file. So this is our Markdown here, and we can actually see this on a web browser, and it converted everything into an HTML syntax. So this is all the HTML syntax, even has some nice CSS styling to it. Another thing you could do is to actually preview this as a on Google Chrome. So if I actually do this and say Chrome Puppeteer PDF, this should create a PDF file of what we just created with Markdown and display that on the website on a web link or a PDF reader if you have a PDF reader installed. So that's one way to actually work on this. You can actually see I forgot to continue my numbering system, but that's super fine. We can always fix that right there. So you can actually have a shareable PDF content you can actually share with anyone, right? So that's super awesome. So if you want to actually take advantage of these other styles, you need to have a specific plugin installed. For instance, if I try to create an EPUB, if I don't have that, it's told me spawn ebook convert and so this is an error because I don't have spawn ebook convert. So you can install spawn ebook convert, save your project, restart your project, and you should be able to actually convert that. And you can also save this as Markdown. We don't want to because we already have this as a Markdown. And another thing is you can change your preview theme into any other theme you want right here. So let's say night, and this is actually going to be a dark theme, so we can actually be working with our theme. So thank you very much for watching, guys. That's how you can use Markdown to create a nice README. So next time you won't be scared to create your README for your GitHub projects. And remember, anyone who's coming to your page would actually get to see your entire README, and they can follow along with your program and your code and see what you're doing. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope this was helpful. I'll see you in